This place, it's called Little St. James, a private paradise tucked away in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, to the outside world, it looked like the ultimate symbol of elite luxury. But behind all those palm trees and perfect beaches, it was actually the dark heart of a horrific criminal enterprise, a place that would become known by a much more sinister name, Epstein Island. So this 72-acre island, it was basically a playground for some of the world's most powerful people. I'm talking luxury villas, private docks, even its own movie theater. But while the powerful came and went, a horrifying truth was unfolding, hidden just beneath that glittering surface. So the big question is, what secrets were really being kept in this private paradise? All right, let's start with the island itself. Because when investigators finally set foot on Little St. James, what they found, well, it only made the whole story that much deeper and that much more horrifying. What they uncovered was just a collection of really bizarre features. There was this strange temple-like building with no obvious purpose. There were rumors of underground tunnels, maybe for moving people around without being seen. And there was this massive network of CCTV cameras everywhere. It just immediately makes you wonder, was this for security or was it for blackmail? So, to really get a handle on the island, you first have to understand the man who created it. This is the story of how a high school math teacher climbed his way up to become a powerful financier who held the secrets of the global elite. Jeffrey Epstein actually started his career back in the 70s as a teacher, but it turns out his real calling was Wall Street. He very quickly worked his way in, gained the trust of billionaires like Leslie Wexner, the guy who owned Victoria's Secret, and started managing their money, making millions for himself. This access to the absolute top of society let him build his own personal empire of mansions and luxury properties all over the world. And this really shows you the two sides of his life, doesn't it? On one hand, you have this public image of immense wealth, the largest private mansion in Manhattan, a massive 75,000-acre ranch, and that infamous private jet, the Lolita Express. But behind that glittering facade, he was building a criminal enterprise, preying on underage girls. Now, here's the critical thing to understand. Epstein was not operating alone, not even close. His real power, his protection, it came from this vast web of influential friends and powerful associates that he spent decades building. For example, when the court documents we now call the Epstein files started to be released, flight logs were a huge piece of the puzzle. And they revealed that former President Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet 26 times. And these weren't just short trips. We're talking about international tours for so-called humanitarian work. It naturally raised a lot of questions about the real nature of their relationship. Donald Trump was also in that circle. He was a neighbor and friend of Epstein's back in the 90s. Now, Trump has since said that they had a falling out and that he banned Epstein from his properties, but their earlier connection is a documented part of this story. But maybe the biggest shockwave of all hit the British royal family. Prince Andrew was publicly accused by a survivor, Virginia Giuffre, of abusing her when she was just 17. The fallout from that was just immense. He was forced into a multi-million-dollar settlement and was stripped of all his royal duties and his military titles. And right there, at the very center of this web, pulling so many of the strings, was Ghislaine Maxwell. She was the daughter of a British media tycoon, she was Epstein's girlfriend, and according to both prosecutors and victims, she was the mastermind of the whole trafficking network. Her job was to find the girls, groom them, and then deliver them to Epstein and his powerful friends. Which brings us to one of the biggest unanswered questions in this whole mess. When the FBI raided Epstein's home, they found a huge collection of CDs and photographs. This discovery has fueled this widespread theory that blackmail wasn't just part of his operation, it was the true source of his power and his protection. Okay, so the first time anyone tried to bring Epstein to justice was way back in 2005. But instead of getting accountability, what happened next was seen by so many as just a shocking perversion of the entire legal system. It all kicked off because of the incredible bravery of one young woman, Courtney Wild, who filed a police report in 2005. The investigation that followed uncovered dozens more underage victims. The evidence was absolutely overwhelming. And yet, in 2008, a secret plea deal was put together by the U.S. attorney at the time, Alexander Acosta, a deal that completely shut the victims out of the process. The difference here is just, it's staggering. For crimes that should have landed him in prison for life, Epstein got a sentence of just 18 months, and he only served 13 of them. And even that was basically a VIP sentence. He was allowed to leave the jail every single day for work release, only having to come back at night to sleep. It's unbelievable. But that wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. The victims, this time backed by some incredibly courageous journalists, they just refused to be silenced. They fought for more than a decade to finally get the truth out there. So this timeline really shows you that long, hard road to a second chance at justice. After that 2008 deal, the case just went cold for years. But then, in 2018, everything changed. A journalist named Julie K. Brown published this explosive report called Perversion of Justice, which laid out the whole secret deal and just ignited a public firestorm. And that investigation led directly to Epstein's rearrest in July of 2019. This time, the system held. There was going to be no secret sweetheart deal. The court denied bail, which meant Epstein was going to stay locked up. And for the very first time, he and his powerful associates had to face the very real possibility of a public trial where all their secrets could finally be exposed. But that trial, it was never going to happen. Just a little over a month after his arrest, the world woke up to some shocking news that would create a new and maybe even darker chapter in this whole story. Epstein was found dead in his cell. The official ruling was suicide, but the circumstances around his death were so suspicious that they immediately kicked off a new and really persistent question. Did he actually take his own life, or was he murdered to make sure the secrets of the powerful died right there with him? I mean, just look at the facts from that night. They immediately raised red flags. Epstein had just been taken off suicide watch. The two guards who were supposed to be monitoring him both fell asleep for hours, and the security cameras right outside his cell had mysteriously malfunctioned. Is that all just a coincidence, or is it something much more sinister? In the years since he died, there has been some measure of accountability. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted and is now serving a 20-year prison sentence. A compensation fund has paid out over $121 million to survivors. And those documents, the Epstein files, they've started to be unsealed, even though there might be over 1 million pages still hidden from the public. And now we have a really crucial date coming up. A new law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, has set a hard deadline, December 19th, 2025. That's the day the government is supposed to release all the remaining documents from its investigation. And you can bet the world will be watching to see what truths finally come to light. You know, this story of Jeffrey Epstein is just this chilling reminder of how money and power can be used to hide the most awful crimes, and how those systems of power can work to protect their own. But it's also a testament to the survivors who just refuse to give up, proving once and for all that the truth, it demands persistence.